Okay, so we have another equation to solve, and we're solving for theta. This time they do give us a restriction on the domain, so from 0 to 2 pi. And here's our equation. So you have a cosine, you can see that, but you also have this sine squared theta. Well, we don't want both of them in there. We need it to be in terms of one function. So we can replace the sine squared theta. Now, you could find your page of formulas and look and see if you could find something that's an easy substitution, but you might not remember that, or you might not find it. So we do know the Pythagorean theorem says sine squared theta plus cosine squared theta equals 1. So sometimes we have to recall the basic ones. And the Pythagorean theorem, this is a good one to remember. So that means sine squared theta is equal to 1 minus cosine squared theta. And then we can substitute this in for the sine squared theta. Okay, so now we're going to have 3 cosine theta plus 3 equals 2 times 1 minus cosine squared theta. And so now we'll work with this equation like we do with the equations. Distribute. It is quadratic in form. We're going to get everything on the left. So 2 cosine squared theta plus 3 cosine theta plus 1 equals 0. So you can think about the algebra behind that. Again, you can use a u substitution if you want to. This should factor, so we're going to factor it into 2 cosine theta plus 1 and cosine theta plus 1. That's going to work. They both had to be positive because you have a positive here and a positive here. And you've got the 1 cosine theta and the 2 cosine theta making 3 cosine theta. Okay, so that's the factoring. So for the first parentheses here, we're going to have cosine theta equals negative 1/2. And then for here we have cosine theta equals negative 1. Okay, so this one we did in another video. But again, think about your reference angles where cosine is negative. Cosine's negative in the second quadrant and in the third quadrant. Reference angle is going to be pi over 3. And so we're going to have 2 pi over 3 here and 4 pi over 3 there. Use those reference angles, that'll help you. And then here we're thinking, well, when is the cosine negative 1? You could draw a cosine curve if you wanted to. Well, that's a lousy curve, but anyway, it's right here at pi. That's where it's negative 1. And we were only going between 0 and 2 pi, so that does them all. Those are all the angles. We don't have to put the plus or minus 2k pi because we're not going around the circle more than once. Just once this time.